The first morning Clara returned, the river was still as a mirror, with only a few thin ripples from small fish splashing near the shore. A thin layer of white mist covered the water. The early morning sunlight reflected in silver streaks. In the middle of that scene, her grandfather's old wooden stilt house appeared. Leaky roof, dark moss-blackened floor pillars, half-broken stairs, sagging wooden windows, black smoke streaking the walls. Weeds grew up to the steps, and water hyacinth rafts from the river drifted close to the edge of the porch. Clara stood still for a long time. She was 35 years old, slim, with sunburned hands, her eyes both determined and tired. Beside her, May, her 9-year-old daughter, held her mother's hand tightly, looked at the strange yet familiar house, and softly asked, "Is this the house your grandfather told you about?" Clara nodded. Yes. In the past, Mum ran around the porch, and he sat weaving bamboo baskets in the other corner. Now that I'm back, I have to clean up the house to make it come back to life, okay? That sentence seems simple, but for Clara, it was a promise to herself. After the marriage broke down, her husband left her with a large debt and a bad reputation. She was forced to sell her apartment, close her small shop, and in the end, this place, the old stilt house by the river, was the only place she could return to. The dirt path leading to the house was narrow and winding, with chest-high reeds and weeds on both sides. May walked ahead, using a branch to hit the grass to avoid snakes. When they got there, the mother and daughter stopped and looked up at the rotten stairs. The wood was peeling off in pieces. Termites had eaten into the grooves, and dry dust fell onto the river surface. Clara put down her backpack and pulled out a towel to wipe her sweat. "Wait a moment, Mom. I'll go up slowly." She tried each step with her feet. Each step made a creaking sound, as if she were groaning from fatigue. When she reached the porch, she put her hand on the pillar, the cold, damp moss clinging to her palm. The house smelled of rotten wood and old, strong smoke. She took a deep breath, then smiled a very small smile. At least it's still standing. In the afternoon, Mr. Nathan, an old carpenter who used to be a friend of my grandfather, passed by. He was wearing a worn-out conical hat and had a bag of tools on his shoulder. I heard that little Clara is back. Oh my gosh, she's grown up, just like her father. Clara bowed. "I want to repair the house. Can you help me?" He smiled gently. "The Stilt house by the river, it's like an old person. If you fix it in the right place, it will live for decades." "Okay, I'll bring the tools tomorrow." Those words seemed to give me more strength. That night, the sound of insects chirping, the river wind blowing through the cold cracks in the planks. Clara lay hugging May, unable to sleep. Outside, the trees and grass hit the pillars, making rustling sounds like the whispers of memories. The next morning, Clara mixed a large basin of water, added some white vinegar and salt, and began to wipe the moss off the pillars and the floor. Each time the brush brushed, the moss came off in clumps. The water was murky green. A damp smell rose, mixed with the smell of the river. May stood below, using a small shovel to clear the grass along the edge of the bank. Water hyacinth rafts drifted in. She gently pushed them. Clumps drifted away, revealing the murky but gentle water. "Mom, the river is flowing strongly." Yes, all currents are stronger when we go upstream, my dear. At noon, Mr. Nathan arrived with 3 young men from the village, old friends of Clara's from school. It's been a long time since we last saw each other. We were all happy to hear you're back. Clara smiled, her eyes moist. Thank you, everyone. I just want to fix this house, even if it's slow. They started spraying borax solution on the termite-infested pillars. The smell was pungent, but reassuring. Mr. Nathan taught Clara how to mix the right ratio, saying 3 parts water, 1 part borate. Spray thoroughly on the area where the termites crawl. Then leave it in the sun. When the wood dries, the termites will leave on their own. Meanwhile, the boys removed the rotten floorboards, replaced them with new wooden panels, and raised the base of the columns with concrete to prevent rotting. The sound of hammers, saws, and water splashing harmonized into a work song. In the afternoon, Clara's shirt was soaked with sweat. But when she looked back, the floor in front of the porch was clean. The wooden columns were brighter, and the moss had disappeared. The wind blew in from the river, bringing the fresh smell of water, new wood, and sunlight. May sat in the corner of the porch, dropping a small leaf into the water, and it floated away very quickly. Mom, leaves are not afraid of water. You see? Clara smiled. Yes, because they know they can float, my daughter. On the 3rd day, they started the hard work, reinforcing the frame with steel crossbars. Mr. Nathan pointed. The river wind is very strong. This frame must be stretched diagonally to distribute the force evenly. Clara and her old friend Vin cut the steel wire, threaded it between the 2 columns, pulled it tight, and tied it diagonally like an X. Every time the wire tightened, The metal made a click sound, small but strong. Each click made her feel like she was tightening her own fragmented life. In the afternoon, they built a new staircase. The old broken wooden steps were replaced with oilwood, the surface covered with anti-slip paint, and the edges were fitted with solar lights. When it started to get dark, the lights turned on automatically, spreading the yellow light evenly on each step, leading the way up to the porch like a silk strip. May ran up shouting, "Mum, there are stars under our feet." Clara looked, smiling with sparkling eyes. "Yes, so that every night I won't be afraid of stepping on the wrong step." The kitchen wall was washed with lime water to remove the soot. Clara and May scrubbed each stain, giggling as the lime foam splashed on their faces. The smell of fresh lime was pungent, but a pleasant change from the smell of debt and fatigue she had carried with her all this time. Mr. Nathan took Clara to look at the kitchen chimney again. This chimney has been clogged for a long time. The smoke cannot escape, so the wall is black. He and Vin removed the old pipe, replaced it with a galvanized steel pipe, opened more ventilation holes. Clara cleaned each kitchen brick, refainted the wall. When she lit the fire, the first smoke went straight up, not spreading out. She smiled with satisfaction. So the smoke also knows its way to heaven, not lost in the house anymore. That night, she cooked the first meal in the new kitchen. Braised fish, wild vegetable soup, a bowl of white rice. She invited Mr. Nathan and her friends to stay and eat. They sat on the porch, under the yellow light, listening to the sound of insects, the sound of water lapping against the pillars. Everyone was silent for a while. Only the cool river breeze remained. Vin whispered, "In the past, you often dreamed of going far away. Now you have returned to the river. Do you regret it?" Clara shook her head. "No, because I realized to live, you must first stand firmly on the foundation you know best." The next morning, the river water rose after the night rain. Water hyacinth drifted close, carrying rubbish around the pole. Clara rolled up her pants, and May scooped the water hyacinths away, tying them into rows to make a natural buffer. Vin and Mr. Nathan drove bamboo stakes into the bank, connecting them with anchor ropes to prevent landslides. While working, Clara said, "Wooden poles are like people. To stand, they must have strong legs and solid ground." Mr. Nathan smiled. "That's right. People who lose faith are like houses without foundations. They easily tilt." The sun rose, the water receded, and they saw the exposed base of the pole. Sand, mud, and moss covered it. Clara washed it clean, sprayed more burrata, and covered it with a thin layer of cement. She used a paintbrush to sweep each layer. Her hands were shaking from fatigue, but her eyes were bright. On the porch, May picked up scraps of wood and arranged them into a small model of the house. "Later, I will build a house for the cat here, Mom." Clara smiled. "Okay, as long as the house has strong legs and a strong roof." One afternoon, two debt collectors from the city came. They were wearing shirts, holding papers, and their voices were cold. "Miss Clara, You still owe our company 200 million. Clara put down the kettle, calm. I know. I'm not hiding. I just need more time. They looked around, saw that the wooden stilt house was completely different. New stairs, sturdy concrete pillars, clean porch, bright cross-strung steel frames. One lowered his voice. What are you doing here? I came back to make bamboo baskets. Here there is bamboo, forest, river. I learned the trade from my grandfather. If you give me 3 months, I will sell the first batch and send back each part. Mr. Nathan came out of the kitchen, holding a newly woven rattan basket, smooth, sturdy, and beautiful. She can do it. I will teach you. Your goods will have buyers. The man looked at the basket, then looked around. Every new streak of paint, every new support, the stairwell light was dim. He didn't say anything more, just nodded. 3 months? When they left, Clara sat down on the steps, sighing, but her smile was still there. May ran back, holding her mother's hand. Have you won? Not yet, honey. We just finished building the house. Now we have to rebuild the trust. In the days that followed, the main sounds of the house were the sound of a knife sharpening bamboo and the sound of baskets being woven. Clara wove each strand, the soft rattan sliding through her hands. May sat beside her, learning to weave small sections. Each time she finished a basket, she placed it next to the window, the sunlight shining through, casting checkered shadows on the new wooden floor. Mr. Nathan still came every morning, checking the steel frame, reminding her to add a layer of protective paint. Vin brought some advertising panels for Clara to stick her sales phone number on. Several other old friends came to help install the basket hangers on the porch. In the afternoon, Clara looked at the rows of bamboo baskets swaying in the wind and thought, I used to be afraid of the wind because it made the house tilt. Now I wish the wind would come so that the baskets could dry faster. She wrote in her notebook, debts can be paid with money, but honor can only be paid by standing firm. To pay off debt, you have to pay with work, and first of all, with courage. Heavy rain poured down all night. The river water was murky, flooding the porch. Clara turned on the light, checked every corner. Dry pillars, taut steel frames, bright stairs, no movement. The wind blew hard, water hyacinths drifted, but the bamboo stakes anchoring the bank held firm. She stood by the door, listening to the rain, feeling strangely calm. May hugged her mother. "Mum, is our house afraid of water?" "No, because it stands on strong stakes. Like us, when we have something to lean on, we are not afraid of anything." When the rain stopped, the river surface reflected the moonlight. The pillars of the house sparkled. The house not only stood firm, but was also beautiful. Three months later, Clara brought the first batch of bamboo baskets to town. The craft shop accepted them all, and paid immediately. She held the money in her hand, not much, but enough to pay the first installment. In the afternoon, the two debt collectors returned. They stood under the stairs, hearing the sound of saws and hammers on the porch. She stepped out and handed over the envelope. I said I would do it, and I did. Here is the first 50 million. The man smiled. You keep your word better than many people with big houses. They left, leaving the sound of cars gradually fading on the road. Clara sat down on the steps, her eyes looking out at the river. The afternoon sun poured gold across the water. She whispered, "Thank you, Grandpa. Thank you for not collapsing this house. Thanks to that, I have not collapsed either." The flood season has come. The river surface has risen, overflowing the stairs. But this time, Clara is not worried. The house has been reinforced with concrete pillars. The steel wires are still strong. The wind and water just pass by, like old acquaintances visiting. On the porch, rows of newly woven bamboo baskets sway, reflecting the water. Mr. Nathan smiles. The baskets are strong. The house is strong. The people are strong. That is enough. Clara looks out at the river, sees the water carrying leaves, duckweed, flowers. Everything flows, but the house still stands. She understands that she does not need to fight against everything. Just stand still in the right place, strong enough. Everything will pass without dragging her down. One morning, the temple bell rang from afar. The village children called each other to bathe in the river. Clara opened the door. The river wind rushed in, carrying the smell of new bamboo and the smell of last night's charcoal stove. She put the teapot on the table, looking at Maid doing her homework. Her hair tangled in the sun.